Satnam, aloha. So are you feeling the energy of the lunar eclipse coming up on July 4th? So you may have felt exhausted this week, maybe emotional this week, maybe shut down this week, eating more than usual, wanting to stay in your shell and retreat. Well, this is all about conserving your energy. It's preparing you for liberation. And that's the gift of this lunar eclipse that I talked about in my last video. So if you want to learn more, go watch that. And what's it liberating you from? The past. So today I want to talk about this cultural phenomenon that we see out in the world called cancel culture, but from a spiritual perspective. So what's the spiritual meaning, right, of this cancel culture? Well, the official definition is that it refers to the popular practice of withdrawing support for or canceling public figures and companies after they've done or said something considered objectionable or offensive. So cancel culture is generally discussed as being performed on social media in the form of a group shaming. So examples of this have been like people taking down Gone with the Wind or the Cops Network and the tearing down of Confederate statues, which we're seeing a lot in the USA, and the public shaming of celebrities, right? Taking away their status, that kind of thing. So I just want to remind you that I don't take sides. And so this is not about me being anti anything or pro anything. I'm just looking at what's going on out there in the external and then going to the source, which is the collective unconscious of humanity, to reveal the shadow, right? So remember that we're evolving into the great age of Aquarius. This is the great shift of the ages that the ancients told us about. And we're in the birth pains right now of this new age of Aquarius. So let's look up into the sky, the heavens, to see if there are any clues, right? As above, so below. Well, there's a retrograde party going on of the planets. So Mercury is in retrograde in Cancer from June 18th to July 11th, 2020. Jupiter is in retrograde in Capricorn, and that's been going on since May 14th till September 12th. And then we've got Saturn in retrograde, and that's May 11th to September 28th, 2020. And then in July 1st, it went into retrograde in Capricorn. Then we've got Neptune in retrograde in Pisces, and that's June 23rd to November 29th. And then we've got Mars in retrograde coming up in Aries from September 9th to November 14th. And then Uranus goes retrograde August 15th to January 14th, 2021. So what's the meaning of all this? Well, all of these retrograde planets are telling us that this is about the time that we're looking back at our human past, looking back at our history. So cancel culture is a product of this reflection, right? Looking back to our past. And what we need for the Aquarian age is to purify our ancestral past, not sweep it under the carpet, right? And get rid of it. We need to purify it. So cancel culture is coming from our deepest human wounds. So one of the 6 primal wounds of humanity, it's called rejection or abandonment, right? So these wounds are karmic. And if you're a human, then you have one in particular that you're working with in this lifetime. So I have an over 12-hour webinar series on these 6 primal wounds. So check out the link in the information box. And again, it's all discounted. So rejection. If it makes me uncomfortable, I'm going to reject it, right? It's got to get out of my sight, right? You no longer exist in my world, right? And this is all in an effort to get rid of my discomfort that's inside me, right? It's coming from inside me. It has nothing to do with the external. So you may have done this personally, like unfriend someone on Facebook, right? Hide their posts, delete all their pics off your phone, block them, ghost them, right? This is an example of this wound at work. But it doesn't get rid of the wound, because the real source of your pain, our pain, is inside you, it's inside me, it's inside us. And it's coming from our ancestral memories. So these memories have to be integrated, right? Remember, these memories are genetically passed down 7 generations, right, from the past, and then 7 generations into the future. So how do these memories, right, how do we integrate them? How do we integrate these ancestral memories? Well, remember, if you've been watching my videos, that we're evolving through the emotional body, through our emotional body. And the pathway of awareness, right, because our awareness is expanding, is moving from the physical, the mental, into the emotional. And then from there, it goes into the spiritual realm. So we must feel whatever comes up for us. We need to feel the anger, fear, and grief. There's only 3 primary emotions. And the feeling of grief that lies under the anger and the fear is where you want to go. So grief is the key that unlocks the door into the spiritual realm. So what we see out in the world with the race war can bring up a lot of discomfort, especially for those who have had ancestors who were either slave owners or those who were slaves themselves, or possibly both, right, in different lifetimes. So instead of reacting and staying on the surface, which really doesn't heal or integrate anything, right, instead of controlling, trying to control what's coming up, go inside and feel this energy that's covering your heart. So instead of like scrubbing out our history, right, with a scrubber, let's learn from it, right? I've been part of and led healing circles in the past, and there's so much healing power in listening. Maybe you've been part of a circle too, right? Really listening to someone tell their story, especially if that story is painful or it's not really been told in a group, right? So really listening is not getting defensive, not being in the chatter of the mind, not trying to fix or deny, right? Just listening, right? Because if we don't do this, then the story continues down the generations and it manifests on the external until it's spoken, until it's witnessed by the light. So the other thing I wanted to talk about too is what can we do in relation to others, right? In our relation to others. Because there's so much division right now. And I'm sure you have division within your own community, right? Friends and family. Well, we're all powerful, creative beings of light. That's the truth. And we lived in amnesia. And so we're waking up now, right? We're waking up from this sleep. And what we're seeing is the darkness that's ruled this world for thousands and thousands of years. And we're also waking up to the realization about how deeply conditioned we are, right? It takes strength to say that, right? That I have been deeply conditioned out of who I really am, right? And so this is how our perception of the world, this is how we've been conditioned one way, has been manipulated. Our perception of the world, of reality, has been manipulated to keep us in fear, anger, depression, anxiety, sadness, right? It's all about keeping us out of our power. We're very powerful beings of light. There's an old movie from the 80s called The Dark Crystal, one of my favorite movies. If you haven't seen it, you got to check it out. It's really, really good. So there are 2 species, right? In this movie. So there's the innocent gelflings and then the evil sketchies, right? So the sketchies, they drain the energy of the gelflings in order to stay powerful and young, stealing their innocence, their essence. So this is what happens, right, when we watch mainstream news. Images and facts are manipulated and fabricated in order to keep us in fear in order to keep us divided, in order to keep us angry and blaming everything outside of us about how we're feeling. So we do what we're told, right? It's really easy to manipulate people who are in fear. We obey a force that doesn't really care about us, that's never really cared about us and our well-being. Right? We're a commodity to be controlled by this negative force. Right? And I apologize for speaking this way, but I just want to become more and more direct with my messages. Right? So it's really easy. Right? This is really, really easy. Anything that divides us is not Aquarian consciousness or Christ consciousness. And these two forces, we can name them. Right? They're interchangeable. Aquarian consciousness is Christ consciousness. Right? It's coming from the heart. And then anything that unifies us and brings us together as one is Aquarian consciousness or Christ consciousness. So anything that's dividing us, keeping us separate, is taking us away from that consciousness. Anything that's unifying and bringing us together as one is Aquarian consciousness or Christ consciousness. So what's the mainstream news? What are they promising? Right? Why do people fall for it? Well, they're promising safety and security. Right? If we stay separate and we fear one another. Right? Even though deep in our being, we know that this is wrong. This is where this conflict comes from. Right? Our mind and our conditioning is telling us, oh, we better obey. Right? We'll have safety and security. And then deep in our being, we know that it's wrong. Right? Something is off. So why are we easily manipulated? Well, the dark forces, what are they manipulating? They're manipulating our childhood traumas. Right? We've all had our innocence stolen as children from 0 to 7 years old. Right? And I talked about this in one of my videos. And this is the developmental stage of our emotional self, 0 to 7. So there's no mental memory of the trauma. You're not going to have memories come up or images come up. It comes through your emotions as the feeling of shame or the feeling of guilt. It doesn't make any sense, right? Not feeling good enough, having self-hating thoughts and feelings about yourself, not feeling like you're enough. Right? Or you're programmed to look outside of yourself for your answers. All these are signs of trauma, childhood trauma. And this is most of the world, right? So this is the upside down world we live in. We were stolen from, right? When we should have been protected as children. So it's easy. It's super easy to trigger these traumas through images, certain words, sounds, right? So until you do your own inner child work, your perception of the world is going to be off-kiltered. You're not going to see the truth behind the veil, right? Because you're not yourself, right? You're fragmented, right? The hidden self the false self has taken over, right? So you can't see the truth because you're not in truth. So when you do your inner child work, you move down that pathway of awareness that I talked about into your real self, the higher self, your divine self, your Christ self, right? Your core, your anchor, who you really are. And then you're at the bottom of the ocean, right? Where it's peaceful and calm and you're not on the surface being battered around by the waves. That's what it means to be a non-self until still asleep out in the world. You're battered around by the waves. So once you do your inner child work and you face those fears and you face that trauma and you integrate it all, then what can you become? The holy witness. And I can't stress enough the power of being the holy witness during these times. So this is witnessing the world and what's going on in the world. What's going on in this play of consciousness from a neutral place. Witnessing all these people that are in fear, right? They're obeying, right? All your brothers and sisters. So witnessing them with compassion. So one of the sutras of the Aquarian age, there's 5 sutras. One of them is understand through compassion or misunderstand the times, right? So if other people around you are choosing to remain asleep, let them be, right? No other human, listen to me, no other human, no one has any power over you, right? No other human can victimize you without your permission at a soul level. So remember, you're a great spiritual being of light, right? So you do your inner work. What's coming up from the emotional body? What's getting triggered? What's getting provoked? Remember, that's the big shadow for this eclipse. And then you integrate it, right? And just love people. Just love people. Know whatever nonsense they're showing you is to love them. And if you need to defend yourself, that in itself is love. That's an act of love. So, in truth, the Aquarian age, it's already happened in the spiritual realm. It's already happened. So we just have to wait and we have to play our roles as it comes slowly down into the physical world, because we live in time and space, right? And things take time. So patience is definitely a virtue. So the good news from the heavens is Jupiter and Saturn conjunction in Aquarius on December 21st, winter solstice. That's the good news. So these two make a perfect conjunction, and they're in the sign of Aquarius, which rules social change, equality, friendship, right? It's cultural change. It's global change. It's all about the future, right? We're going to be not so preoccupied with the past, right? It's all about the future and where are we going from here. So this is radical change that's coming. So have faith, right? Have faith. And back to unity before I close up here. I feel really strongly that one cause that could unify us as a humanity is to save those millions and millions of children that go missing each year through childhood trafficking, right? It's a multi-billion-dollar business, and this is one of the dirtiest shadows that has yet to really reveal itself in our world, but it's coming. And so when you see a child, you see a child. You don't see race or religion or culture or language or education, right? You just see a child, an innocent child. And it takes a village to raise a child. So if you're just out and about, right? If you're out and about in the world and you see a child, keep your one eye on that child, the children around you, especially if the caregiver's not around, okay? Because the caregiver can't always be, things happen, right, in life. Not every parent is negligent, but keep your eye out. What's going on? Something feels off here, right? These predators are like rats. As soon as you, as a holy witness, put your eyes on, oh, there's something dark over here, they take off like cockroaches, right? Because they're really afraid of you. They're afraid of the light. They're afraid of love. So as you do this, right, your own inner child is going to come forward within you, because your own inner child will feel safe, that you'll take care of your child too, your own inner child. So it's a win-win for everybody. So, okay. So go check out my Inner Child program, my 6-week program. And you also have the option to work with me. Some people really need more support, like one-on-one support. So you can meet with me on weekly meetings and then have email support for the duration of the program. Okay, so consider that. And then I've got the 2027 6-hour webinar, like what these next 7 years are all about and why is this so crucial, these 7 years. This is the 7 years of tribulation that's talked about in the Bible. Like we're in it from 2020 to 2027. And also my 6 primal wounds, and that's a 12-hour webinar series, and that teaches you how to find your own wound and how to integrate it and then go through each wound 1 to 6, right, that you've inherited from your ancestors. It's 12 hours, and everything is reduced in price because of the the situation that we find ourselves in right now as a collective. And then you can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, where I post daily, and also subscribe to my channel if not already, and then ring the bell so you can be notified, because I do live streams too, with meditations, and then go deeper into a card reading and things like that for the message for the week. Okay, so wherever you are, have a wonderful day or an evening, and keep the faith and keep trusting in God. Okay, Sat Nam Aloha.